guys, welcome back to the Attachment Point News Roundtable. I got Tolga Tezel of Canopy Connect on here, a newer buddy through InsurTech Twitter, which is always great, man. I blame the Ask Kodiak guys for a lot of the fun that we have on there. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Brett. Thanks for having me on here. And I've heard about you like long before we actually started talking to, and so glad we were able to connect over the past few months here.
One of the funniest stories I heard recently, I was talking to Ray Lynch. He's over at Coterie. He's like, yeah, this broker Brett guy, who has the nerve to call themselves that? He's like, who is this guy?
I thought it was cool because it's just like so out, like you're just like, I'm broker Brett, like I think that's awesome, man. Like I've been seeing your stuff on Facebook and Twitter and stuff, and probably LinkedIn, like actually before we even got closer over the last few months. So
no, I appreciate it.
I always respected that branding, honestly. I think it's awesome. It's like, this is who I am,
Well, and to flip it back to you, Canopy Connect, I love the interconnectedness of the tree. If you're talking APIs and connectedness, I think it's the perfect logo. But, thanks for coming on, man. Thanks for the kind words. And for the viewers out there who don't know Canopy Connect, what are you guys doing? How are you going to change their lives? How are you going to make it much easier on the average?
Sure, yeah. Canopy Connect, like what we do is we build the easiest and fastest way for consumers to be able to share. There we go. The QR code. We build the easiest and fastest way for consumers to be able to share their insurance information with a business that they want to share it with. So, like the way that we kind of discovered this problem is just through talking with agency owners. It all started with I had a random conversation with an independent insurance agency owner, and she was telling me that she was asking people's VIN numbers and premiums, limits, deductibles, and can you send me your deck page and annual mileage and all these kinds of questions over the phone or over email. And people just don't have that information handy. And so she was actually driving to their houses and showing them how to log into their online insurance accounts and get that information. And we, hearing her story, I was like, wow, well, like people are already linking their bank accounts left and right to Venmo, Personal Capital, Mint, PayPal, like you name it, you're able to, all these fintech apps, you're able to just link your online bank account and then all the information goes across. And so realized that we could build that for the insurance industry. So that's what we do.
That's really cool. And something that connected really early, a friend of mine had an idea I was helping him out with like 4 years ago called Lifeguard. And he wanted to build like a plaid of insurance. And I think you mentioned coming across that company or coming across Keith. Yeah.
Yeah, I came across it. Well, when I started like thinking about this problem, I was like, somebody's got to have built this before, and turns out that they had tried to build it. And so I was actually able to find their old website on like, there's this website called like the Wayback Machine or Web Time Machine or something like that, where you can actually see old websites that are no longer up anymore. And so I came across those and learned more about, the challenges that they had in building their product. And but a lot of startups is really just timing, like consumers' expectations have changed a lot over the past few years because of the ease and convenience of all these new fintech solutions. And people have online insurance accounts in a way that they didn't have as much back in the day. So a lot has really changed, and we're able to validate all those assumptions. Like we were able to validate people have online insurance accounts. People are able to remember their logins so that they can just log in with their carrier through our platform, and then we're able to connect and pull the information. And also APIs are more prevalent now too. So a lot of that stuff I think comes into play with just the timing of when we started doing this.
Oh yeah, 100%. Even like 3 or 4 years ago, just knowing what an API was versus an EDI feed was like, yeah. And to your point too, it's crazy and all the weird happy accidents, but keep holding up my card. With the pandemic, people got used to using QR codes in restaurants, and then all of a sudden it's less scary and people know how to activate it, myself included. A QR code's right up there with like Snapchat for me before. It was like something I tried like twice, like I don't get this, I'm done, and then just moved off. Yeah.
I know, it's crazy, right? Like during the pandemic, like all of a sudden all the restaurants, that was the way that you pulled up the menu was through a QR code. And that's just caused, I think, like a really drastic change in consumer behavior, because everybody's gone to, or most people have gone to restaurants sometime in the last couple of years. And so if you've gone to a restaurant in the last couple of years, you've probably used a QR code. And so, yeah, we actually built that into, as you kind of pointed out, we also built that into our platform so people can just, like load up your QR code and send you their insurance information in like 10, 20 seconds.
That's perfect. And then our buddy Heath Sharon, kind of mutual awareness, kind of built that up a little bit too. Ever since I've been around Insurance Town, Canopy Connect, is always front and center. But
He
it's
actually
cool.
started doing his podcast, I think, around the same time that I was launching Canopy Connect, and so we were kind of like growing both of our things together. And he's such a nice guy and such a great person. And yeah, we started helping each other out. Really proud of like the progress that he's made. He's really now he dresses all nice and he's really kind of becoming a figurehead of the industry too.
It's nothing inappropriate. I'll send you a funny picture afterwards of me and Heath at ITC, but great dude. No, and then unofficially, we haven't like launched anything publicly, but I've fun joking around with Rob. Part of the excitement to engage was just being at FINAEO, very open API friendly ecosystem. So hopped on Canopy myself. I've had some some clients come in. Such an easier way to grab the data. And I promise not an infomercial. I'm an agent, proud paying customer, using it myself. But yeah, to kind of go in the Wayback Machine a little bit. So you had Nova Credit and Dropbox before Canopy. When did you get the itch to be a founder? Because going from like engineer to founder, I mean, it's kind of a crazy, I'm sure that's a little chasm you look at, and kind of take some time to want to jump over. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I actually had done a lot of different types of projects. I fell in love with the startup environment way back in 2011. I was doing an internship at university. Actually, my first ever not my first, but my second internship was actually with an insurtech company called Datalot. So some of your listeners may know.
I know Datalot. Yeah. They're actually decent leads. Leads industry is kind of gnarly, but they had some decent ones for,
Yeah. And at the time they were 10 people. Me and my buddy were their first interns actually out of Waterloo. And I being in that small environment, moving really quickly, getting a lot of ownership area, I had never learned that fast in my life, and I just fell in love with that. I think what I always have kind of optimized for is like, how am I going to learn the most, and all kinds of like success or whatever you want in life for me, like have all come through personal growth as well, like forget about like career or money, but like even just personal growth and resilience. All that's come through putting myself in these like situations that I feel like I'm going to learn the most. And that's where I fell in love with startups. Throughout university, was always building projects on the side.
Cool.
Actually, like with my buddies in university, we launched the world's first ever like Facebook connected smart lock,
wow.
back in like 2013.
Yeah.
But everybody ended up getting, people ended up getting jobs at like Facebook and Google and stuff like that. And so that we didn't end up doing that. But I'd always wanted to found something. And
cool.
And then so I joined like a really early stage startup while I was finishing my degree. And then we got acquired by Dropbox about 8 months after I graduated. So that's how I ended up at Dropbox. And the reason why I decided to stay there for a few years was same kind of thing. Like I actually felt like I was learning a lot. Back in those days, Dropbox was a way smaller company. It was the kind of size where you actually knew everybody's name and like everybody knew one another. And me and a few other folks built Dropbox's first real-time file collaboration infrastructure. So we were actually getting to do a lot of stuff that like I learned a lot there. And then after a few years, the company grew more than 10x. It was starting to prepare for IPO. And I felt like I had learned a lot at that time, but wanted to apply the skills that I'd learned in a way where I could feel like I was really directly impacting people's lives. And in thinking through like, what does that actually look like? I kind of started to realize that for me, probably the most, and this is a very personal thing, everybody might have different perceptions on what kind of impact they want to have in the world. For me, it felt like the most like tangible way that I could impact people's lives in a way that I could really feel like I'm helping them is actually impacting their financial lives. And so I started like developing an interest in fintech, and that's what actually led me to Nova Credit. So Nova Credit reached out to me after Dropbox. I actually spent 6 months traveling around Europe with my at the time girlfriend, now wife, and just building stuff. And reading and just like also traveling, just having a good time. And then when I came back to the United States after that trip, Nova Credit reached out to me and they said, hey, we're building this cross-border credit infrastructure that allows people who are immigrating to the United States to actually get fair access to credit. And the way that they do that is, if you this applies to anybody moving from one country to another. So if you move from one country to another, you have to build your credit history from scratch in a new country. Yeah, and it actually just doesn't make any sense, because like, just imagine for a second that like you're over in London, UK, and you have like, maybe you have student loans, you probably have credit cards, like maybe a car loan. You have a credit footprint that you build over time wherever you are. But then when you move to a new country, the new country doesn't have access to that information, because credit data is actually siloed by country. And so if you, like in that hypothetical example where you move from London to the United States and you go and apply for a credit card, you're just going to get rejected because they're like, oh, you don't have any credit history. Like, I don't know that I can trust you, right? And I actually had that problem. When I moved to the United States after Dropbox acquired the startup I was working at, I couldn't get a credit card, even though I was working at Dropbox, had like a decent paying job and stuff, and I had credit history in Canada. And so they reached out and they were like, hey, do you want to build this for Canada? I was like, I immediately understood the problem because I had that problem myself, and it felt to me like it was a worthwhile problem to solve to help people get fair access to credit using like just real data, right? Like there's already information about your risk profile. It's just not accessible. So it's an infrastructure problem. So I launched Nova Credit in Canada and a few other countries, and just really fell in love with the concept of consumer permission data. That's what we were building, and what we were building at Nova Credit is actually pretty analogous to what we're building here at Canopy Connect. In the case of Nova Credit, we were giving consumers the ability to share their international credit information. So if you move from London to the United States, you'd be able to share your UK credit information. And then the bank or whoever was lending to you would actually be able to underwrite you exactly the same as if you're an American, because they would have a FICO score and all the other data that they would expect to receive about an American with a full credit profile. And every time we were doing that, we were helping somebody, get accepted to a credit card that they otherwise would have gone rejected for, or, not having to pay 6 months rent up front because you're actually creditworthy.
Yeah.
Or even just getting to move into an apartment because you need to pass a credit check, and so I just really fell in love with this concept where you could put the power in the consumer's hands to share their information. This isn't happening through backdoor stuff. It's like the consumer is opting in to share their information, and then they authenticate with their carrier, and the data, or the credit bureau, and the data goes across. And not only were we helping the consumer, but at the same time, we were also helping a business acquire a customer that they otherwise wouldn't be able to understand them enough to work with them. And so it was really cool to me to see that you could like truly build a win-win business where you're helping both the consumer as well as a business, which enables you to generate a profit, which you can then, obviously you need a profit engine to be able to scale something. And so to me, that was really inspiring. And it kind of set me off on this like exploration of like, what other data could we unlock for the consumer? And that's when that's kind of around the time when I had that conversation with that independent agency owner, and she's telling me that people don't know their insurance information. And so she's having to drive to their houses and show them how to log into their online insurance accounts to get the information she needs to understand them. And I realized that this was like pretty analogous to kind of what I built at Nova Credit, but just in a different industry. And that's kind of what set it off.
No, it's cool. And I'm gonna give you a quick shout out. So you mentioned Waterloo. For our US viewers who don't know, that's like the MIT of Canada. Donald Chu, one of the co-founders of FINAEO, he's so proud that his brother went there, but super studly school, so it's good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the magic with Waterloo is just that you end up doing 6 different jobs by the time you
Oh,
graduate.
wow.
I actually paid for my entire degree just by like those jobs that I took.
That's cool.
And I got to work for the Canadian Space Agency, a few startups, even like a military company, and yeah, a bunch of different experiences. And it also gives you a chance to just like try different things. So like I worked on hardware, software, eventually found that like I actually really love software because
Cool.
kind of like create with a lot less limitations, and that was important because I actually did an electrical engineering degree,
Oh,
so
wow.
those experiences allowed me to sort of hone in on software.
It's funny you say that. One of my draws to insurance is that you can basically build a company with a laptop.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. But no, dude, congrats on good stuff. Um, to sort of backpedal a little bit, so Broker Brett was originally Broker Brett /home/auto. It was just a forms website because I couldn't get my friends to get me the documentation. I couldn't like get anybody to give me information to quote. So that's all it was. And then it turned into a blog, and then now it's kind of like a hub for different stuff. But yeah, same problem, just getting data. You know, it's so funny. Insurance is such like a. I almost think though sometimes it's disjointed as a measure of protection for itself. Like it almost doesn't want to be fluid because it's sort of a blocker for these like monumental behemoths. you know?
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is like any business that is looking to really grow needs to really think about the consumer experience, right? If you're putting the status quo is that you have this long online form that you're presenting them, and the consumer needs to fill out dozens of form fields asking them detailed information that they don't readily have the answers to. Like people don't know their VIN numbers, people don't know their annual mileage, they don't know what they're
Yeah.
currently paying or what they're getting. And but the information is there, and their current carrier already has that data. The other thing that's kind of relevant here is that consumers have a lot more rights to their data than they did even like 5-10 years ago. So regulators and even like the Biden administration has taken a pretty firm position that the consumer is the owner of their data, regardless of where it lives. And so if a business has their data, that's great for the business, and the business can do stuff with that. But what's missing in the equation is like, how can the consumer get value and convenience out of their own information? The other thing too is just like having data be like connected actually makes it more efficient for the entire market as a whole. Like people are already doing things like shopping or verifying their insurance, and these things are happening anyways. And there's a lot of servicing costs and things like that get involved in different types of transactions, whether you're talking about, getting somebody's insurance information or making policy changes. And a lot of these things can just be like significantly simplified by putting the consumer in the driver's seat and like giving them the ability to like at the click of a button share their information, or at the click of a button make a policy change. And there's a lot of servicing costs that kind of goes under the hood in doing all these things today because the data isn't connected. In a world where data is a lot more connected, it actually allows companies to innovate on where they should be innovating, which is providing value to the user and not just like collecting form fields like ask. I shopped our commercial insurance like several months back, and same thing, right? Like people are asking me to fill out an Excel spreadsheet with detailed, different information about the company or our current insurance, or asking that stuff over email. It's really just like all these
Just
things.
data. Yeah.
It would be a lot more efficient if it was connected, and that's kind of a big part of why we're doing what we're doing.
And I always feel bad whenever I sort of accidentally pick on like the incumbents and the major carriers, because like everyone's doing their best. Everyone has their tech stack. Everyone's stuck in their old tech stack. They got to make this quarter work, and it's hard to be like, let me just stop this 10,000 person org and put in a new computer, so I definitely got to be sensitive. And I think I'll call it that middle layer tech, like what Canopy is doing is a really cool way to, sit on top of the data lakes that are out there and help them make sense,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. The way we think about what we do, right, is like the data is already, the data is online somewhere, and we just make it easy for the consumer to do what they already wanted to do. And that actually makes it more efficient for everybody involved, you know? So like, you know, when like the way that it works is like when you want somebody to share their information with you, you just present Canopy Connect. We have like a little like widget that you know, the consumer just selects their insurance carrier and logs in with their carrier, and then we're able to connect to the carrier and pull the data across all their personal property and casualty lines. And then, you know, the data goes over to the business, and they're able to see, like, to advise them on what they have and how they can, you know, address coverage gaps or even just save the money if that's what it is. And so you know, like these kinds of things like are already happening. It's just that like the status quo is super inefficient for everybody.
Well, and I'll give you, so I think the third one is just goofy, but the first two use cases so far, I used to work through a different group, but I've moved it. And this one policy for a friend who literally is across the hall has been with the old group. He'll ask me things at times. I'll contact the old guys. I didn't have his current policy number, so it's really easy. It's like, hey, would you mind just logging into here real quick? Boom, BOR. The other one was a coworker of my little brother's inherited a rental property, and somebody told me he should get an umbrella, so he had no clue what that was. So we just had him log in, and then I got all his data. I was like, oh, well, we need to up the personal liability on, you know, the rental. You know, if you want an umbrella, I can get one through RLI. You know, so that's the two use cases I've used so far. One BOR and one prospect, you know, in the funnel. And then, so I did get an API key from our side. I got to sync up the systems. I'm excited to have all the data dumping into FINAEO too. But yeah, it's cool, man. No, it's definitely saving time already, you know, excited.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it saves time. It also does things like improve the close ratio, right? So like, you know, with data, you're able to provide value to the customer and like skip away, like, you know, I think like traditionally a lot of agencies and agents have kind of looked at the information collection piece as a way to actually like build rapport. They're like, okay, if I'm on the phone with the customer, I'm building a relationship with them. But actually from the consumer's perspective, like having to answer these questions is actually fun. You know, you're not really building a rapport with them. You're just kind of spending time. And so how we think about it is, well, if we make it really easy for the data to just be available to you based on the consumer's consent, now you have their information, you know what they're paying and what they're getting across their lines of business, and you can actually focus the rapport building around providing value to them. You know, like people don't know what they have or what they're paying and what they're getting for it, and so you can and they don't even know a lot of the time what the coverages mean, and so that it enables you to build your rapport in the sense of actually providing value and education and being that trusted advisor for the prospect. And that results in an improved close ratio. You know, like we very commonly hear from our customers, like, hey, we improved our close ratio by 60%, 70%, and so on. And it really
That's
just
awesome.
about like making it easy for the consumer and by extension, making it easier for the business. I know for me, like when I'm shopping and most consumers are kind of similar in this sense, is like, whatever I think is going to be the easiest for me is like what I'm going to do, right? So we kind of looked at it like, if we can make it as easy as possible for the consumer, that's also going to benefit the business.
Totally. No, you lose deals, like I'll call it headache 3 or 4. You know, you can get through 1 or 2 kind of friction emails or calls, but if it starts dragging, like you just get, you know, you lose interest. And then the other part is,
right.
And I'm going to like generalize age-wise a little bit. And I understand that things skew in both directions. It's not always like a stereotype, but anybody 22 to 38, I would say, would much rather click on something else and pull the data over. They don't really want to sit on a phone call anymore, you know, not in a bad way, but they'd rather just have that streamlined interaction. You know, they'll follow your agency on, you know, Instagram, whatever else, but they're not necessarily looking to bro down with their insurance agent, you know, like, that's okay. My feelings aren't hurt, you know?
Still blow down, but it's like, but you know, it doesn't need to be like a question and answer session, right?
Yeah.
More like you can bro down based on like educating them and kind of like showing them that you really know what you're talking about.
Or maybe like hosting like some, you know, charity event or something, you know what I mean? You could connect in another way, you know?
Yeah. The other like really significant thing that we found is that the average consumer that submits through our platform comes through with 2.4 lines of business.
Yeah.
And A big part of like the status quo today is like somebody's filling out like an auto insurance form or a homeowner's insurance form, but rarely are they filling out a multi-line quoting form. I can't even remember the last time I came across one of those. And part of the reason for that is every single input results in some percentage of drop off. So you like in order to figure out your funnel, you multiply. This input has 1% drop off. This input has 3% drop off. This input has 4% drop off. By the time you get to the end, like
that's interesting.
Especially like a lot of these forums are seeing like single digit conversion, right? And so, just reducing the amount of inputs there makes it really easy for the consumer. And then, in less friction than it would have taken you to get information on just an auto policy.
Yeah.
You actually have all on average 2.4 lines of business, and then you can multi-line quote them right away. And especially given that the average consumer is bundling, that means you're going to need to often present a bundled offer to actually even beat what they have, right? Because they get significant discount for the bundle.
To your point, I had a really nice lead. I feel bad for dropping the ball on. It was like a home in Palm Springs, a home in Tahoe, multiple cars, earthquake and flood policies, and just, for being buried, it's just too much, like trying to requote and move 8 policies. I kind of let it lie, and I think back to that Canopy, maybe I should circle back with them, just going to log in, that'll take care of the lion's share of the data that I needed, which I actually do want to bug them now, and that's lazy. I mean, we're just always behind as agents,
It's a lot of work, right?
Yeah.
It makes sense why it's like that, because it's a lot of work both for you and for your client. We have people tell us hey, I'm working with this high net worth person. They have 12 cars or whatever. Yeah. The interesting thing too about you mentioned sort of the millennial demographic, but the interesting thing about the older demographic is on average, they'll typically have more policies and more assets, right? And so that means that the friction for them is on average actually going to be higher to get all that information over to you. And they also just, if you're like a high net worth individual, you have 12 cars, maybe 2 homes or something, and a life and umbrella policy, good luck getting all that data over to you, right? And so so even for that older demographic, there's for them, in often cases, it's actually even more of a friction reduction, just because they have more stuff to cover, and they actually on balance care more at that point of protecting the assets that they do have, because they have more of them.
They'll have their handler that's very difficult, and then you don't want to deal with the handler that much either. Right. So it's more efficient for everybody. It's a win all the way around. So I don't want to hold you too long today. We accidentally messed up our Zoom, so we're a little behind getting started, but you can kind of vision cast a little bit at the end. I always say with InsurTech, it's gonna be a lot less paper, a lot more relationships, a lot more, like you said, decisions if your data goes back and forth. I think we're seeing the same future. Some people playing nice, some blue ocean kind of conversations out there. I'm excited. Yeah.
Likewise.
Yeah, no, heck yeah, man. But so thanks for being a friend of FINAEO's. Thanks for, reaching out, being willing to have the conversation. I'm excited. I feel like you guys are just getting rolling too. I mean, seed stage, right? You're not even at and you guys are making noise. I know kind of quietly you have some, you have some clients on board. There's some people in the system, but yeah, it's cool, dude, for just getting rolling. I'm very impressed. Yeah,
the growth has been really, really amazing. Especially, it's been a bit surprising to see that in in an industry that a lot of people would sort of view as old school. When I first started building it, it was well, how are we gonna reach the different agencies and different stakeholders that we would need to connect with to do this? And it's gone a lot faster than I think we had originally.
That's awesome. Well, when you have one of the best sales development guys leading it in the business, when you got Rob back there yelling, "Let's go!"
Right. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Just for us, we I really truly believe that everything leads with value, right? And I think you the same way, because I see you doing the same, taking the same kind of approach. Before we started working together more closely, you were already kind of shouting us out and stuff.
It's fun.
And I think it's when you really prioritize the success of your customers, everything else kind of flows from there, right? Like if you want to build a successful business, just like stay close to their customers and talk with them and make sure that you're improving the product based on their feedback, and then everything kind of falls into place, as a result of you just relentlessly focus on providing them value. If we don't provide businesses value, like we're never going to be successful. So that's like what we think about. And that's also why we priced our product for agencies like quite reasonably as well. And we have like a 14-day free trial and all that. So it's just like, we really try to just focus on providing that value, and then everything kind of comes into play from there. And I think that's been a big part of our growth too.
It's kind of interesting, and I won't hold you too long, I promise, but $99, 99 data pulls for like the base model. If you're pulling over 99 data pulls and you're closing half of them, that's quite a bit of money that's coming through. So that's a lot of value for $100,
It pays for itself if you close one auto policy. And then when you think about like the other like really valuable thing is like you have a lot of agencies that have a lot of monoline clients. And like I said, the average consumer actually has 2.4 lines of business with their carrier. So there's a lot of like new territory for you to cross sell off of as well. So even like you can even use it with your existing book and cross sell them that way. And so yeah, but I mean, the price, we actually just tried to make it like a no-brainer pricing, and even have the 14-day free trial. So that we can really like, because a lot of like, especially when you kind of go back, now we're a little bit more well-known, but I think like, I mean, I used to get emails all the time, but people be like, I remember that there are a few emails that I still like, I can remember vividly, where they were like, I don't believe you, or I don't think this is real.
That's awesome.
I was like, dude, let's hop on a call. I'll show you right now. And even, there were some times where people were like, no, I don't think you actually are able to do that. No, I don't believe
That's
you.
amazing. That's great.
You just have to show people. So yeah.
That's awesome. Good deal, man. We'll keep showing them. I like it. I like it, Tolga. Anywhere people should chase you down, maybe find you on Twitter, find you on LinkedIn. Is it, and I should know the domain. What's the exact domain? No.
It's usecanopy.com, USCANOPY.com, usecanopy.com. That's our website. I'm on Twitter at Tolga_Tezel. And then if you search like Canopy Connect or just my name, Tolga Tezel. Thankfully, there aren't too many Tolga Tezels in the world. So if you search my name, I'll probably come up as well. It's TOLGA. It's my first name, and last name is TEZEL. But yeah, like if you search Canopy Connect, I'll definitely come up. So that's what I would recommend people searching on Google or LinkedIn.
I don't think I've done this yet. There we go. Part of the reason for the FINAEO crossover. It's good stuff.
And that blew my mind when I remember our first call, and then like you panned over to the Canada flag and then to the SF Brit. Yeah, or the Canada flag. And I was like, wow, this guy's really speaking my language right off the jump. I love California, like I think growing up in Canada too, like when I remember when I first moved to California, I was just like, am I dreaming? Like, I can't believe people live like this. Like the weather, it was actually, I just moved from, it was like freezing rain when I got on the plane, and I got off the plane in California, and it was just like beautiful, sunny, like 20 degrees Celsius. And I was just like, man, like I can't, life is like, people can live like this. Like, that's amazing.
It is weird. Like I've grown up in SoCal, not to be too tangential, but it's sort of like, I hate to say it, but like permanent vacation, you got to work. So the downside is the ambition sometimes can be missing, because it's sort of like people think they've arrived and they just kind of want to repeat their parents' lives. So there is a little bit of, just it's not to say lack of awareness sometimes, but I appreciate being from here, and I appreciate having friends like yourself that make me more appreciative, of the experiences and the opportunity. And, for all the downside of COVID, it's been interesting connecting with people better around the world, getting better at Zooms and whatnot. So it's good stuff, man. I'm excited for the next chapters. Yeah.
Likewise, Brad.
Cool. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll catch you soon.